Welcome back to Golf WRX's Winning What's in the Bag, where this week we are taking a look at Kurt Kitayama's Winning What's in the Bag from the 2025 3M Open. Congratulations to Kurt as his second PGA Tour victory. Just an awesome win. Guy hit some really clutch shots down near the end of the tournament. So, great guy here. He is technically a Bridgestone staffer, but I think that is just a ball deal. I know he's got like a Bridgestone golf head cover. He's also got the bag. But I think it is just a bag deal or a ball deal. So he has kind of a mix of clubs, got a few different brands in there, and I always love that. So we'll start at the top as we always do, and his driver is going to be the Titleist GT3. Now the GT3 is kind of the lower spinning, a little bit lower launching head, a little bit more compact in the Titleist GT lineup. It's a little bit, I will call it neutral biased, even though everything is kind of like labeled as that. I think the GT2 is a little bit easier to turn over. GT3 is a little bit more neutral bias, and it does have that sliding weight on the bottom where you can make it either a little bit more draw setting or a little bit more fade bias as well. You can just slide that weight forward. Now his is an 11-degree head. Yes, very high lofted. You don't see a ton of super high loft drivers out on tour, but it just goes to show you that even players at the highest level like Kurt can play a high lofted driver. It just depends on how you deliver it to the ball. So his at 11-degree head, it is set to D1 on the SureFit hosel, so that's minus 0.75 degrees, so it's about 10.25 degrees actual playing loft. Standard lie angle there on that hosel setting, and this one has a sole weight that is set in the T1 position, as you can see on the sole, which is basically there's neutral, there's T1, T2, so it's slight fade, that's a toe 1 position, and it looks to be a 6-gram weight. That looks to be like the white or the silver weight there. That actual color determines what weight is in the bottom of that head. So it looks like a 6-gram weight set to T1, so slightly fade bias. Now the shaft in this one is a Graphite Design Tour AD VF7TX. That's the 70-gram weight range for the VF, which is their kind of low mid-launch driver, very low spin, kind of a stiffer overall profile, very stiff tip to it. Been very popular on tour, that red and black color. You're starting to see it pop up a little bit more and more. Very stable shaft. And the TX is the Tour X Flex. And what this is, every company does TX a little bit differently. Some people actually have it where it's like a full flex stiffer. Some people just tighten up a little bit of the torque or something like that. I'm not 100% sure on Graphite Design. I've heard rumors that there's actually go about a flex stiffer in TX. I don't know if that's 100% true, but this is a 77-gram shaft with 3 degrees of torque. Now moving to 3-wood, and 3-wood is definitely an interesting one. It's something brand new, or at least new that we got at retail. Kurt's had this in the bag just a little bit, but it is the Titleist GT1 3-tour 3-wood. So this is the kind of lower spinning GT1 3-wood out there. So GT1, when you look at the line of Titleist GT series woods, GT1 is typically the highest launching, highest spinning, usually easiest to turn over and hit a little bit of a draw with. It's meant for players who need more height. But the 3-tour that just came out is kind of a little bit different. It is the still bigger GT1 profile when you look down on it. Overall, a little bit larger head, but it is a lower spinning and lower lofted head. So it's about a degree stronger in terms of loft at 14.5, and it is a lower spinning head just naturally. Now, it still does have 2 movable weights on the sole that you can kind of dial in, flip a heavy weight forward or back to dial in kind of that spin for you. But this one is something that Kurt's had in the bag for a little bit, but it actually just got released officially to retail. You can go buy this head from Titleist now. Now the SureFit hosel on this one is set to A3, so that's going to be actually plus 1.5 degrees of loft and also 1.5 degrees upright. So this is going to look more at like almost a 4-wood head, and it is 1.5 degrees upright. So upright will also make it sometimes a little bit easier to turn over, hit a little bit more draw, maybe get that starting line just a little bit left of center or more left from where it is in a natural shot shape. Now this one here on the sole, as I said, it has 2 movable weights, one near the face, one in the back. And typically you can take the heavy weight, shove it back. It's going to add launch, add spin, add forgiveness to the head. You can push the weight forward, take some spin off, maybe lowers launch just a tiny bit as well. He has his set with a heavy, looks to be heavy weight forward. It looks like a white weight in the back and a copper weight in the front. So that's 3 grams in the back, 15 grams forward. So it should be high loft, low spin. And yeah, Kurt has hit this thing really, really well on the final. I think it was the final hole or two. He hit this thing really well off the tee. I think well over 300 yards. So definitely a bomber of a 3-wood. Now this one is shafted up with a Graphite Design Tour AD DI8 TX. So the 80-gram weight series of the ever famous DI. Now the DI is typically orange and white. That's the shaft that Tiger played a long time ago, and we've seen countless players on tour. They do make a black and white version. There's some players who just don't like looking at orange, so they made a black version that is literally the same shaft, just black, so it is just more scaled down. I think Adam Scott has played the black one. I want to say John Rahm has played the black one. There's been a few different ones running around in bags for just players who don't want to look down at the orange. Now, in this weight class, in the lighter weights, it's typically a higher launch shaft with low spin. When you get into these heavier, 80 gram, 70 gram weights, it comes down to kind of a mid-launch shaft with low spin. So it's got a little softer handle to it, very stiff tip, and produces a little bit of launch with that low spin. Now, this one comes in at 86 grams and 2.9 degrees of torque. So we move on to his next wood, and his next wood is another GT1. It is a Titleist GT1 21 degree, and Titleist doesn't necessarily call it a 7 wood, it is a 7 wood. It's the 21 degree head, 7 wood head. His is set to A1, so it is playing 21 degrees, standard lie angle, all that. That is just the stock setting on it. The GT1, again, a little bit bigger footprint when you look down at it, a little more forgiving, a little higher launch than the GT2 or GT3 fairway woods in the line. Now this one here, same thing, weights in the front and the back, so you can dial it in. He does just like his 3 wood. He's got a copper 15 gram weight in the front and a white 3 gram weight in the back. So producing a little bit less spin, probably lowering that launch just a little bit in that 7 wood head. And this one is shafted up with a graphite design Tour AD 9 TX or DI9TX. So same as the 3 wood shaft, just a heavier weight, the 90 gram range TX. Now this one is a tour only shaft. You can't actually go buy this from your typical graphite design dealer. They make a 9X, a 90 gram X, but they don't make the TX available to retail. You can still find them, they're out there, but it is not a shaft that they produce for retail, so something that we really can't get. So in terms of specs, pretty sure it's going to be mid-launch, low spin, just like the 8TX and the 9X is. But in terms of actual gram weights, I'm going to guess that it's going to be around 98 grams, probably about 2.5 to 2.6 degrees of torque. If I look at from 8X to 8TX, that's kind of the difference. It goes up like a gram, and the torque sometimes goes down like 0.1. I'm going to assume in the 9TX, it may do the same thing. So it's going to be right around that 97, 98 grams and about 2.5, 2.6 degrees of torque. And it is, again, like the 8TX is the black version. So this is the white and black one, a little more subtle, not as flashy as orange and white. Now moving to his irons, and the first iron in the bag is going to be a 4-iron, and it is the TaylorMade P7CB. So the new P7CB is his 4-iron. Forged cavity back, definitely a decent amount of perimeter weighting. This thing has like a co-forged sole where it's got some tungsten, some ceramic material forged into the sole. That way they can get the center of gravity exactly where they want it. So it kind of forged into that steel there. You don't see it. They then finish off the sole so it looks perfectly clean. But this iron here has a great sole to it, good turf interaction, really soft feel. I like these irons a lot. They're very playable. And I can see why he has this in the 4-iron. It's a little bit more forgiving, a little easier to hit, and those mishits aren't near as penalizing as like a true blade is. So that one there, it is shafted up with a True Temper Dynamic Gold X100, which I bet you're going to be shocked. It's 130 grams and kind of, mid-low launch and lower spin. So we then move into the rest of his irons, and 5 through pitching wedge, he is playing the TaylorMade P7MBs. So yes, this is the P7MB. He's not playing the Tiger Woods one. Typically this one here, this forged cavity or forged blade has a little shorter blade length, a little shorter heel to toe, slightly more different progressive offset compared to the TWs, but still has a narrow sole, still thin top line, not much offset to them. Maybe a little taller face height in the longer irons, but soft, and that muscle kind of has like a triangular type angled look to it. That is actually there to engineer the center of gravity into the right spot. So each iron, that shape is going to be slightly different. That way they can get that center of gravity, put the mass behind the ball, and make sure that each iron has a really good kind of balance and feel to it. Now these ones here are also shafted up with True Temper Dynamic Gold Tour Issue X100s. So extra stiff, and again, these things are weight tolerant, sorted to plus or minus half a gram. So at 130 grams, the lightest one in the set would be 129.5, and the heaviest one would be 130.5. So about 130 grams. So they match up really evenly throughout the whole set. It's a really tight tolerance that they sort to for these shafts. But again, 130 grams, kind of mid-low launch, lower spinning. Then we move into his wedges, and for the wedges, the first wedges in his bag, he's playing the Titleist Vokey SM10s. So these are the brand new wedges out, and he is first playing the 52.12. F grind. So the 5212 is again the higher bounce version of the 52. They make a lower bounce version as well, but the F grind is that full sole, wider, helps reduce digging, great on square or full shots, takes a shallower divot, and is very stable through the turf there. It's interesting that we're seeing a lot more of these high bounce gap wedges in the bag. For a long time, if you felt like a lot of players are going low bounce, and now we start looking at these higher bounce wedges there, and it could be just because maybe the conditions are a little softer, they were playing kind of, up north, or the players just getting a little bit steep with wedges and taking bigger divots. But either way, that will shallow out the divot. So 52.12, and that is playing a True Temper Dynamic Gold Tour Issue X100 to match the iron shafts. Kind of a smart play for a gap wedge, especially if you're a player who hits a lot of full shots with your gap wedge. If it's something where you hit full shots into the green, you can kind of match the trajectory, match the feel, match the weight, all that of your iron set, and it just kind of flows evenly from whatever your starting iron is through your gap wedge. Now then we move into sand wedge, and sand wedge is again a Titleist Vokey SM10, and this is the 56.14 F grind. So again, the high bounce version. Again, we're seeing more higher bounce sand and gap wedges in these sets. I know when we talked about Scheffler last week, kind of a similar setup with the higher bounce F grind soles. This one here for the sand wedge, the 14-degree bounce F grind. I play this wedge personally. I really like it. I think it's, while it has a bunch of bounce and it's great out of the trap, it's great in soft conditions, out of deep rough, things like that. You can still open the face a little bit, and it is still pretty versatile. Now, when you try to open it way up, that leading edge is going to come up off the ground, but most people aren't hitting crazy flop shots with the 56 degree. So on full shots, it is a great sole for that. It's great out of the bunker. It does a lot of things really well with that higher bounce to it and that fuller, wider sole. Now that one is shafted up with a True Temper Dynamic Gold Tour Issue S400. So a little bit softer, a little bit heavier, so 132 grams compared to the X100's 130. Slightly heavier, but it's also softer. It's a stiff flex. But it is an S400, a little bit more material, so it does play maybe a little bit more stout than a typical S300, but this is an extremely popular wedge shaft because a lot of guys transitioning into slightly heavier, slightly softer, a little more feel and touch with that softer flex in the sand wedge. Now moving to lob wedge, and lob wedge is the Titleist Vokey WedgeWorks 60 K-Star grind. So this is one that came out, I believe, last year. The K-Star, played by a bunch of pros out there, but it starts life as a standard low bounce K. So it's 6 degrees of bounce, or they call it the 6006 K. But 6 degrees of bounce, a lower bounce, but still a wider sole on it. And what they do with this K-Star is they take the K and they basically make a pre-worn leading edge. They grind a pre-worn leading edge into it, and they grind some trailing edge relief on it. This gives that K grind a little bit more versatility in terms of playability, different shot shapes. You can open the face up a little bit better with that trailing edge relief. That leading edge stays down to the ground, and then that pre-worn leading edge, when you play it square, helps get that leading edge under the ball for tight lies. You can kind of get under it, nip it, hit it clean, and if you're a little shallower player, don't have a super steep angle of attack with your lob wedge, this thing works really well on super tight lies. But it still does have that wider sole, so when you open it the bunker, still has a good amount of float, even if you're playing something that's like soft and fluffy, but just a really versatile wedge that you're seeing a lot of players add in that lob wedge spot. Now this one here, much like the sand wedge, shafted up with a True Temper Dynamic Gold Tour Issue S400. So again, 132 grams, a little bit kind of on that lower launching side, but a little bit softer for those partial touch shots around the green. Now for putter, we move into that. It is a Scotty Cameron Studio Style Newport 2 Tour Prototype. So yes, these names are super long, but it is based off the current Newport that's out right now. We have that out there because when you look at the face, it has that chain link insert there, and it says SCS on it, which stands for the Studio Carbon Steel, which carbon steel for some players is a little bit softer than stainless steel in terms of feel, just offers a slightly different feel to it. So that insert there softens things up, makes the putter feel and sound a little bit quieter, a little bit more muted. That chain link milling provides a little bit more forward topspin and also reduces a little bit of that clicky sound that comes off a putter that has a really shallow milling or anything like that. The insert also has kind of like a kind of a polyurethane or a plastic kind of like, caulking kind of behind it, so that alone also will dampen up some of the feel and sound, give it a really soft feel to it. It is based off the Newport 2 that you and I can buy, so a little bit boxier feel, a little bit square, sharper corners, slightly longer, more edgy bumpers and shoulders on it when you look down on it from address. And speaking of address, The alignment on it is just a single sight line, or sight dot, I'm sorry, just a little sight dot on the top line, which some players putt really well with. Everybody's a little different on how they like things. I like a single sight line on the flange, but Kurt on his, just a single dot on that top line. But a really good looking putter, twin 30-gram weights on the sole there, and this one has a SuperStroke Zenergy 1.0 PT grip on it. So the 1.0 PT is kind of a more traditional putter grip from SuperStroke. It's very similar to kind of a pistol style, flat top. There's a pretty meatier, kind of a meaty arch underneath that upper hand on it, but it's a slimmer, smaller feel, and it's going to be a little bit closer to a traditional grip than going to a full-blown, SuperStroke 1.0, 2.0 in, say, the pistol or the Tour or whatever it is. So a little bit similar there. Fits in the hands well. That arch in the back is supposed to give a little bit more control and kind of lock that grip into the pads of the hand a little bit better there. For ball, he is playing the Bridgestone Tour B XS, and this is the Mindset version. So the XS is going to be the higher spinning ball. So when they have the Tour BX and the XS is the higher spinning ball. The one that Tiger used to play a super spinny ball, but he has actually moved on to the X. But Kurt is playing the XS ball, and it's just comes down to that, maybe around the greens, those type of things, iron shots. That extra spin kind of helps him hold greens, maybe gets the ball up in the air just a little bit, helps with that descent angle and ability to just really get it to stop on the green from any distance there. Now the Mindset on there is the Bridgestone's little work there. They worked with Jason Day and one of his coaches to create this little, it's kind of 3 rings. There's a little like green dot and there's a yellow and red ring around them. And it's not really made for alignment, even though there is kind of an arrow on it. It's really made to kind of give yourself a pre-shot routine. So when you put that ball on the tee, you can look down on it and kind of go through your 3-step process. Same thing with putting. Now out in the fairway, I mean, the way it's rolled, that's just the way it is. You might not be able to see any of that Mindset, but he does play the one with that little Mindset mark on it. So, and then grips for the rest of his club are Golf Pride Tour Velvets, so the traditional kind of herringbone pattern or houndstooth pattern grip that Golf Pride's been making for decades. It's kind of a brushed rubber on the outside, really good feel to it, kind of a medium firmness in terms of the density of the rubber, but great traction, all-weather performance. I'm not sure on the size or the wraps or anything like that, but I do know that it is a Golf Pride Tour Velvet grip. So that is Kurt Kitayama's winning What's in the Bag from the 3M Open this year. Congratulations again to him on his win. Always awesome to see, and check back next week where we'll jump into the next winners. What's in the bag?